So, hi, I'm Finlay, and
I'm Ella.
And we're from the school newsletter, The Update. And so today we have with us Amira and Evelyn, who work on a podcast, which is all about the third narrative when it comes to the conflict in Israel and Palestine. And this is all about breaking past polarization. So maybe you two could introduce yourselves briefly and what you kind of do, what the idea of your movement, your podcast is. That'd be great.
So, my name is Amira. I am a Palestinian from occupied East Jerusalem, and I'm an activist. I've been an activist ever since I can remember, since 2019. And been working on different things. I started being from behind the scenes, like organizing events, organizing meetups and dialogue, sometimes facilitating the dialogue. And the past 2 years have been have changed not only myself but also my approach in activism. I've become more public. I've become more outspoken because how can you not? And part of my activism is being one of the co-hosts of Unapologetic, the third narrative. And what that means is, so Unapologetic refers to two things. One is that it's a Palestinian-led initiative, and we're not going to apologize about anything related to our culture, our identity, our traditions, our symbols that we use, and our history. The second thing that we're unapologetic about is the future that we see. We see a future that has to be just, has to be filled with dignity, and has to be joint, meaning that we need to work together, co-resist, not just coexist, but co-resist together in order to get to that future that we want to see for everybody, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. And about the third narrative refers to, one, that it is a battle of narratives, that Palestinians have a history book and Israelis have a history book. And if we're going to continue just to battle each other without finding the means through dialogue to get to some sort of resolution that appeases everybody, that is just, then how are we going to continue forward? And that's the third narrative, not the first or the second that are pro one side and anti the other, but a pro-solution, humanist narrative.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And Evelyn is our everything. Evelyn is our producer, our manager, our behind-the-scenes person, and she joined us unofficially, almost like maybe a week after we started or a month after we started, and officially started being a part of the team.
Maybe like a month and a half to 2 months in,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
I could introduce myself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was just my segue.
Thank you. My name is Evelyn. I'm a Jewish American Israeli who has a really complex identity. My father is a Tunisian Israeli Jew, and my mother is a Jewish Syrian American. So growing up, I had a lot of conflict with my own identity and trying to understand who I am, what am I supposed to identify as. Over the years, I've gone through so many different journeys, and it led me to somehow, I'm just going to speed through 34 years of my life, but it led me to becoming a musician and connecting with a lot of different types of people and different stories. And it ended up leading me to meet Amira 4 to 5 months before October 7th. And then somehow it led to really deep conversations, and it started unraveling a lot of things that I thought were true that were untrue. There was a lot of unlearning that I needed to do, and I still continue to unlearn and learn at the same time. And when they started the podcast, like Amira mentioned, it was the first time that I felt that there was a space to have dialogue, meaningful dialogue, solution-driven dialogue, as opposed to each side constantly demonizing the other, with also the, the platforming that there is a massive power imbalance, and that is something that needs to be addressed constantly, is that it's not these two equal sides that are battling each other, but one side doesn't have rights, doesn't have any sort of equality, and that's the Palestinian people. So when they started their initiative, I felt like it was my duty to take whatever skills that I had honed over the last, 15 years of my life, whether it's video editing, production, audio editing, and use those skills to amplify the work that they do. And I feel really passionately about the podcast and the movement that we've created over the last 1.5 to 2 years.
Fantastic. And I don't know, maybe could you just explain how did the podcast kind of come into existence in the first place? So maybe you could walk us through that journey.
So, being both Ibrahim and I met before, like we were working together for a little under a year in a different organization, and we were always talking about how there is a lack in Palestinian initiatives. There is a lack in that Palestinian voice, and we would always say that he would say that he wanted to create his own thing that focused on what he wants to focus on, and I wanted to create my own thing that focused on the things that I wanted to focus on. And it was always like this kind of discussion during our break. This imagining what we would do if we had the free time, the resources, and what language it would be in, what the target audience would be, and what the goal would be. And then unfortunately, like the 2 years had to be, like the past 2 years had to be, or October 2023 specifically, because we started and launched our first episode on October 29th, 2023. It was basically, it came out from a need and a thirst to express ourselves, to see like to basically call for help was first and foremost. Is that we looked at our Palestinian friends and family, we looked at their Israeli friends and family, and everybody was in so much pain. And obviously, like Evelyn said, there's like a power imbalance and all that those important things to highlight. But we still thought that the pain on both sides was immensely was just too much to go ahead and start any kind of dialogue. So we referred to the international community. That was the initial first step. And during the first 2 weeks, we were like, oh my God, look at the international community. Like they, instead of helping us get to a ceasefire, they are putting more fuel to the fire. So in between the checkups on each other between Ibrahim and I, the idea of the podcast came up again, and Ibrahim was like, Amira, the podcast, we need to start it. This is like the calling that needs for us to start it, and what do you think that you and I could do it together? And then I think maybe the next week or so we recorded the first episode, because there was no thinking about it. Like my response was, let's do it, when and where. And then we organized and we recorded and we released.
Awesome. In terms of your approach in your podcast and in activism, how has this been received by both Israeli and Palestinian people?
Before you answer, this is the producer in me. I don't know if your mic is on.
Is it?
Yeah, I see a blue light,
yeah,
not a red
it's
light.
Not red.
Is your light on?
Finlay?
Mine
Oh.
Is it red or blue? It's blue.
It's blue.
Yeah.
It looks like it's working to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird because this is red.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's all.
Yeah.
All right.
We have a red light.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay.
Okay. Never mind.
Great.
Thank you.
Proceed. Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah.
What was the question?
The question was, how has your podcast been received by both sides of the conflict, or just by the public in general?
So, if you listen to the podcast, it shows the progression of us and how we've changed in our attitude, in our opinions, in the way we deliver our opinions. And because, like, in the beginning, there was a certain audience that reacted in a certain way, and then it progressed, it grew, it expanded. So in the beginning, there was a lot of support from the most of people that would like give us positive responses. There was doubt. There was like, because everybody was on shaky grounds, not understanding who and what to trust. We were also in like startup mode. We didn't we were just like head first and starting and doing as much as we can. So the responses were more positive than negative, but that's how things start. When you're small, you don't get as much criticism. And the more we grew, the more criticism we got, the more controversial our statements began, even though the aim and the goal is has not changed. And I guess because Ibrahim and I and Evelyn, the three of us do not share the same opinions. We disagree on many, many things. And we say that we disagree on many things. And the podcasts just collects those disagreements and reminds us that the end goal is collective liberation. The end goal is justice, freedom, and peace. So whenever someone disagrees, like they disagree with somebody, but they agree with somebody else, like usually, like they resonate with at least one person. So should I wait?
It should be fun. Yeah, it's okay. You can continue.
It's okay. So there are some hard disagreeers, but there's a lot of support from Palestinians and from Israelis.
Well, in terms of your approach to talking about the conflict is maybe quite unconventional in terms of this third narrative. Is there kind of a risk that in doing so you're operating within like an echo chamber and you're not reaching either of the sides by distinguishing yourself as being not associated to any side at all? Are you only kind of reaching like-minded individuals? And if so, how do you kind of see your message broadening beyond that demographic?
I can answer on that. So in terms of what you said with reaching an echo chamber, or if we're reaching like-minded or diverse audiences, it was a really interesting journey over the first 30 episodes of the podcast, where up until I would say episode 10 or so, we were reaching a very specific audience. And then as our perceptions and opinions started to shift, so did our audience. So Amira decided to open her private page to become public. And so when Amira started speaking to her audience and Ibrahim started talking to his audience on their separate channels, it started funneling different groups of people to the Third Narrative Instagram page, collecting a really diverse audience from all across the political spectrum, whether it's far left or center or right. And there are definitely people that disagree with what we're doing, but with those disagreements, they're also very happy that there are people that are looking towards the future, even with disagreements. And it started as a podcast, but it formed into a movement. So over the last 2 years, we've held 4 different international events from this movement that we began. And you can literally see the diversity in the audience, where you have people from totally different backgrounds, forget the political spectrum, but also identity-wise, coming to these events. We have Syrians, Lebanese, Palestinians, Israelis, Jewish Americans, all across the identity spectrum.
Wow.
And I think if we hadn't created these international events, we wouldn't really have known who's listening to our podcast, because the statistics that we're given are just statistics of people in areas. We don't know who they are, what their religion or ethnicity is. And when we see those numbers converted into real-life human beings, it starts to really make us understand what difference we're making is. Like,
Fantastic.
it's super impactful.
Yeah.
So how do you encourage listeners to engage with your podcast and also possibly take action in their own communities to maybe share what you've been trying to talk about?
So in the beginning, it was mostly on social media. Why it was mostly on social media was because of the situation on the ground. We were very much like there was no like collective, like I think protests or anything. It was mostly grieving in the like very, very, very short term beginning. And there was also a lot of fear. So most of the things were happening on social media. Most people were expressing themselves on social media. So we did the same. And it kind of happened by itself. Like, to say that we started the podcast thinking that we would reach more than 300,000 listeners, we didn't. We just started in a space where we could express our opinions after we've been silenced for so long. Then social media became the first step of reaching people, because we've garnered such a large audience right now on social media. So that's how we encourage them to listen to the podcast, and that's also how we encourage them to come to our events, to come to other organizations and activists' events. We like one of our goals in our podcast is to amplify other people, because not everybody has the time, the privilege, or the reach to talk to the or even like the mental capacity to like talk to people and reach to them and ask them to come and ask them to the support. So we try to like act as kind of a bridge to do so. So there's that. And the second one, because you said that there is this echo chamber, the second one is to go to where we want our audience to where our audience is, or where the audience that we want to reach. You got to go physically there. If they're not coming to you, you got to go to them. So we started going to the occupied West Bank, Evelyn and I, and forming friendships there, forming relationships there, understanding who the people are, and also taking part in protests and demonstrations and
protective
presence, where we stayed, like the biggest one that we've taken part in olive harvesting. We were taking part, but it was canceled because it was too dangerous. The olive tree planting, where you go with the farmers in order to protect them from the settlers, from the Israeli settlers that might attack them, that might be stealing their harvest, that might be burning their trees. So because Palestinians do not have rights, other people that have can bear as a witness, can bear as translators, and sometimes literally as like a protective shield. Because their life is valued more than the Palestinian lives. Unfortunately, that's the reality. But the biggest thing that we've done that put a lot of impact, I think, on our lives and our perspective is doing protective presence in Al-Makhrour, which is an area next to, it's a very like hilly green area near Bethlehem. Where a bunch of families are like threatened, were kicked out of their homes, and like settlers took over it. We like made friends and met with one of the families, and we camped for a month on and off there. In order to demonstrate for the army and to raise awareness and to collect like eyes and attention on the area with other Palestinian and Israeli and international activists. So we went there, and that's where others started listening to who we are and what our podcast is. There's always the challenge of language, because our podcast is in English, so the majority of our podcast listeners are from the international community and not from the land, even though 13 or 14% is from the land.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And I was really fascinated by what you were saying before, kind of about disagreement on your podcast and differing views. What kind of lessons do you have when it comes to disagreeing agreeably, especially on issues that are kind of so divisive and, you know, these really entrenched and visceral viewpoints people have, and this, you know, it's so imbued with kind of fear, as you said before. So how do you navigate that when it comes to disagreeing in a cordial way?
I come from a very argumentative culture, where everything is an argument, And when they started the podcast, they led by example as to how to have a conversation even when you're disagreeing. So it's like a master class on how to have a proper dialogue. And over the last year and a half plus of them having conversations with each other and also the guests that we have on many of the episodes, it showed me how to navigate these conversations that I would have naturally argued with. And I think it's because they've acquired a lot of skills being in this field for so long that they've naturally implemented it into their day-to-day lives, into their regular conversations without even realizing how incredible this skill is. And so many of the people that have reached out to us, whether it's DMs or emails or comments, whatever it is, they're saying that not only is it creating hope within their own communities, but it's also giving them free therapy. And it's also allowing them to understand how to listen better, which is a skill a lot of people don't have, unfortunately. So they're leading by example, and they're showing people how to have conversation in a way that's not debate. And that's one of the slogans that we have is dialogue over debate. Because when you have dialogue, you're speaking more so in a way that you can have a conversation while listening. And when you're debating, you're listening in order to respond. You're already thinking of what you're going to say as a response to what is being said to you, rather than just listening to absorb and having empathy. And I think that's something that we forget, especially as things get more and more polarized. We're human beings at the end of the day, and all of us have different experiences. If we don't listen to each other's experiences, we're never going to learn how to grow.
Great. Yeah. That distinction between dialogue and debate, super interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looking more towards your thoughts and views on the conflict, if we're allowed to ask, what do you see as a realistic best case scenario when it comes to moving forward, both in achieving an end to the bloodshed and a lasting solution for peace in the region?
I mean, if it were that simple,
Yeah.
there would be a solution already. I think if you ask each and every one of us, everyone like from Ibrahim, from myself, and from Evelyn, we have a different, or maybe more similar vision.
We share similar views.
Like if Ibrahim were here, he would like vouch and carry the Oslo flag and tell you two-state solution. Which we respect, but it's one of the things that we disagree on, is what kind of solution there is or there needs to be in the land. But we all agree that at the end of the day, it's a bunch of like needs that we need to not look at it in the very one-dimensional, what solution should we put people in, or what solution should we push into the area that we call home, but we need to look at what the people need, and then see how it can be achieved within the because we all believe in the same needs. If we talk about the Palestinian needs, it's or Palestinian and Israeli needs, the most immediate things is an immediate and permanent ceasefire, and a hostage deal, and to I don't know if you've read the news about Trump visiting Israel and the Prime Minister of Israel saying that they if they don't get what they want, basically they're going to occupy Gaza and stay there permanently.
Move 2 million people.
Yes, and ethnically cleanse the people that live there. So obviously not to let that happen, and to make sure that Gaza is rebuilt, that food and humanitarian aid gets there, and not to mention like that we're just talking about like physical things, not to mention like the people that have lost limbs, that have lost their mental sanity, that have lost family members and loved ones. So to address that first and foremost, and then become like the general needs that were the same needs that were there on October 6th, which is to end the illegal occupation, to have like some are more broad, some are more like specific, such as freedom of movement, recognition of Palestinian identity, and the Nakba as the Palestinian national catastrophe that happened to the Palestinian people, to have the right of return, access to holy sites, safety, and then come the Israeli needs, reparations. Then come the Israeli needs of safety, also recognition, also
access to holy sites as well.
Yes, access to holy sites, also freedom of movement, because whether we agree with it or not, both people see that they are indigenous to the entirety of the land. What else am I missing?
I think those are the major
main things. I think, like in my opinion, if you ask me, because of the power imbalance, the Israelis need to come need to come to peace with the idea that if they want safety and peace and a joint just future, then they're going to have to compromise, because they're on the privileged, more powerful end right now, and equality to the privileged looks and feels like oppression, because it's not just like bringing people up, but it's also some things like are going to get down from one of the sides. So whenever we talk about solutions, that's what we go back to: the needs of the people. What do the people need? We can fight all day about where to draw the stupid line, but at the end of the day, like it's the needs. And if any solution, even if it looks perfect, does not fulfill those needs, then there's something still to work on. If we want to get more specific, ideally, I think everybody wants like a free,
utopic borderless,
borderless region,
yeah,
where we can rebuild that train track from Jerusalem to Damascus in Syria. Like that is the utopic. If I had a wish to make it come true, that would be it. And we work towards it, but we're realistic in what can be achieved. Yeah. But it can be achieved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in such a fraught discussion about this, how do you how do we even ensure that the distinction is clear between when we're talking about the government of Israel or the Palestinian Authority or Hamas, and the people of Israel and the people of Palestine and the people in the region and all the different ethnicities, sorry. So how do we kind of make sure that distinction is clear when we say, this action we disagree with? We're not necessarily disagreeing with the entire group of people who are represented by that authority.
Great question.
I think the international community hasn't done a great job in assisting this and tend to demonize all of the people for the actions of its leaders. But there's a very big difference between the actions of a sovereign state that's recognized internationally and a group of people who have always been oppressed. And I understand the demonization of the state of Israel, and I also understand the demonization of Hamas and the PA. I understand where it comes from. It might represent some of the percentage of the population, as some people want these people to be in power, but I think the more you get introduced to as many Israelis or Palestinians, or I should say and Palestinians, the more you'll be able to understand that at the end of the day, we have very, very similar values. We're very similar people. And the governments don't represent us as a whole. It might represent some of us, but as an overall, we're not a monolith, not Palestinians and not Israelis. Each of us holds a different opinion, and we shouldn't be demonized for our identity, simply because of where we were born or what citizenship we have, or lack of citizenship, because many Palestinians don't even have a state that they belong to. They're in limbo, and they have been in limbo for 77 years almost. So I think it's important to just meet as many people as possible and to raise awareness about each other and each other's stories, so that we can learn to navigate how to co-resist the status quo and what's been happening to get to a better space for both people.
Thank you. To finish off the interview, we'd like to finish with a question about what you think makes a podcast truly engaging and impactful, and what advice would you give to students who are interested in starting their own podcast on complex or sensitive topics?
Wow, that's a nice question. This is like one of the shortest yet most interesting interview. What I would recommend. I say first and foremost, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just know that you would need to have the courage and the strength to apologize when you do make a mistake, and own that you are, specifically if you're a student. Yeah, I would even say this to like older people, like we grow, no matter how old you are, you grow and you change. And that's a quality that like people have. And if you stay the same your entire life, that's not a compliment. If you always had the same opinions, and I think address that. Like the more transparent you are with your audience, the more authentic you are. Not just like a robot professor talking in front. Like these are the facts, and it is very rigid. The less people will be interested. People like to relate. And making mistakes, not being perfect is relatable, because even if like universities and the media and movies make it seem like there is this perfection that you can reach to and this high standard, even when it comes to like knowledge and strength and looks, it's not true. It's not realistic. And just be completely yourself. And I would say, stay true to your values, but be open to others that don't share your same viewpoints. And look at criticism in a way that is you can learn from it. Like whenever a Palestinian gives me criticism, and I'm saying specifically Palestinians because those are the audience that I want to be listening to me. Whenever they criticize me, even if it's in a horrible, harsh way, I look at it and I'm like, okay, there's a reason. Specifically if it's a repetitive criticism. There's a reason why, like it's not all of them are wrong and I am right. There's a reason why they're giving me this criticism. So what is it? Even like remove the mean way that it is said in, and see what you can get from it. And implement it. And always keep on growing and keep on growing. And you can never be prepared, just go for it.
Thank you.
I would piggyback off of that and say, something that has made our podcast specifically successful is storytelling.
Yeah.
Instead of throwing out this history, that history, statistics, whatever, when people share their personal experience and their personal stories, you all of a sudden open your heart. And when you open your heart, you also open your ears to more perspectives, and you're able to get a better picture as to who these people are. If you're only interviewing people in order to create arguments or to get little sound bites so that you get more followers because you're saying certain things that is going around in social media these days, you're going to collect the same types of people. And when you bring a diverse audience onto your podcast with different views, different backgrounds, different identities, and they tell their story, people all of a sudden discover things that they never knew before. And they would have never gotten to know these stories hadn't someone platformed them in the first place.
Yeah.
And make partnerships. Yeah. Like find other people you like identify with, work with them. Do even if they don't have a podcast, they have an initiative, work with them. And it doesn't have to be like if they're like there's a ceasefire tomorrow, let's say, like a suggestion I would like bring to our podcast is to reach out to like others that talk about a different area that isn't Palestine and Israel, and see how we can help, how they can help us, how we can help them, and so it grows, and we like people in pain can help each other and like work together.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.